The galaxy had known the name of the Xerac Dominion for so long that even the oldest alien historians could not remember a time without it. To many species, the Dominion was less a government and more a law of nature. Just as stars burned and black holes consumed, the Xerac conquered. They moved slowly, carefully, but once they set their eyes on a world, that world's freedom was already gone. For 6 centuries, the Xerac had done one thing above all else: build. They built warships, in hidden shipyards carved into asteroid belts. They built star fortresses around dying suns, draining the last heat to power their reactors. They built vast armories filled with weapons designed to melt continents, crack planets, and silence any resistance. Every child born under Dominion rule was raised to believe that their fleet was unstoppable. Every governor, every subject world, whispered the same truth: the Dominion's strength was eternal. At the heart of this empire was Admiral Corrin, commander of the Grand Armada. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Blade, a warship so massive that lesser fleets could have flown through its hangar bays without touching the walls. His armor gleamed with gold and black, the symbols of victories etched into every plate. His 4 eyes glowed with cold confidence as he gazed at the holographic display of the fleet. Tens of thousands of ships floated in perfect formation, a wall of steel and firepower stretching across the void. Behind them, more ships waited. Behind, those more still. The full strength of the Xerac was beyond counting. Corrin allowed himself a smile. Centuries of patience, centuries of labor, and now the galaxy shall finally bow. The Council of the Dominion had ordered the final phase of conquest. The scattered free civilizations, the small trade coalitions, the stubborn holdouts, all would fall. No longer would the Xerac rule through fear alone. Now they would rule through absolute control. But as the fleet prepared, one name surfaced in the reports, a name so unimportant that most dismissed it instantly. Earth, a young species, a primitive world, barely a few centuries into spaceflight. Their ships, if they had any worth speaking of, were said to be fragile, crude machines. Some argued that Earth was not even worth sending a fleet to conquer. A single Dominion frigate could burn their world to ash. Corrin listened to the arguments and said nothing. He did not care if humans were weak or strong. The Armada would sweep all resistance aside. It was what they had always done. Yet, in the dark corners of the galaxy, whispers spread. Rumors of strange weapons tested on the edges of known space. Whispers of ships vanishing near Sol. Whispers that humans did not act like prey. Of course, no one believed whispers when standing in the shadow of the Armada. On the planet Veyron, once the jewel of the Kalor Confederacy, the alien governor gave a speech to the beaten populace. "Look to the skies," he said proudly. "See the Armada above you. 6 centuries of work, 6 centuries of perfection. No empire has ever stood against them. No rebellion has ever lasted once the Grand Fleet arrived. From this day forward, the galaxy belongs to the Dominion. Resistance is foolish. Obedience is survival." The crowds lowered their heads. They knew the truth. The Dominion could not be stopped. Deep inside the Dominion's War Council chamber, lit by cold blue flames, the admirals met. "The final map of conquest," Corrin announced, his voice echoing across the chamber. He gestured at the galaxy-wide display. System after system was already colored in the Dominion's dark red. Only a few free zones remained, scattered and weak. "Target the Nalari first," said one admiral. "Their fleets still harass our borders." "Crush the Varun enclaves," another suggested. "Their trade routes weaken our control." But Corrin's gaze rested on a small blue world highlighted on the edge of the map. "Earth," he said softly. The other admirals chuckled. "A backwater. Why waste time?" "Because conquest must be absolute," Corrin replied. His voice was quiet, but the steel within it silenced the chamber. "If we ignore even one world, even one species, then we leave the seed of rebellion. We did not build this armada to leave seeds behind." None dared argue. A scout fleet was a assigned. 30 ships, swift and powerful, each enough to devastate a planet's defenses. They would travel to Sol, deliver the message of surrender, and bring Earth under Dominion rule. To the admirals, it was routine. To Earth, it would be the first shadow of war. The scout fleet departed in silence, engines burning bright as they cut through the void. Inside their ships, the Zarek soldiers were already preparing chains, expecting prisoners, trophies, and slaves. They laughed when they read the files on humanity. Small population. No major colonies beyond their homeworld. Military forces negligible. Technology outdated. No interstellar allies. Pathetic, one captain muttered. We shall take their world in a day. But in the dark quiet of space, Sol waited, and Earth did not laugh. On Earth itself, far from the Dominion's knowledge, leaders met in underground chambers shielded against prying eyes. Reports had reached them. Fleets moving, systems falling, the Dominion swallowing whole civilizations. Humanity had watched, silent, patient, but never blind. Now the report said the Armada was moving toward Sol. Around the table sat generals, admirals, scientists, and diplomats. At the center stood a woman with sharp eyes and calm authority. Admiral Sarah Holt, commander of Earth's defense. They believe we are weak, she said. Her voice was steady, but the weight of the moment pressed on every listener. They believe centuries of ships make them untouchable. They will discover otherwise. On the walls, holograms lit up, blueprints of human warships. Not crude, not fragile, but sleek designs wrapped around cores of terrifying power. Weapons unlike anything the galaxy had seen. For years, humanity had hidden its strength. For years, they had prepared in silence, building not numbers, but precision. They knew they could never match an empire that had 600 years of fleets, but they did not need to. They only needed to strike once perfectly. The Dominion fleet will arrive soon, Holt said. When they do, we will give them a choice. One chance to leave. If they refuse, she pressed a control, and the hologram of a Dominion ship appeared, then shattered into dust under a beam of white fire. Then Earth will answer. Around the table, no one doubted. Far across the stars, the scout fleet neared Sol. Their captains smiled as they saw the pale blue planet ahead, floating in the black sea of space. To them, it was nothing more than another world to burn. But Earth was waiting. The stars were calm when the Zarak scout fleet entered the Sol system. 30 warships, dark and sharp like blades, cut through the void with engines burning blue fire. Their commander, Captain Veyron, sat tall in his command chair, his eyes glowing with arrogance. Before him, the blue planet called Earth floated in silence. To Veyron, it looked fragile, almost beautiful, like a jewel waiting to be stolen. This will be easy, he said to his crew. One broadcast of surrender. If they resist, one strike will silence them. The bridge officers laughed. To the Dominion, such missions were routine. Worlds had fallen this way for centuries. The fleet would arrive, make its demands, and crush whatever resistance appeared. The Dominion had never failed, but something was wrong. The scanners did not show the usual chaos of a young species system. There were no random mining colonies, no unguarded stations. Instead, the system felt empty, quiet, as though every ship and satellite had been carefully hidden. Strange, one officer muttered. They should have more orbital clutter. Civilian stations, freighters, at least something. Veyron waved him off. Perhaps they are hiding, already afraid. Soon they will kneel. The fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, engines blazing, weapons armed. They began broadcasting the Dominion's message of conquest. This is the Zarak Dominion. Submit and serve, resist and die. Earth, you are now property of the Armada. The words echoed across channels carried toward Earth. For long minutes there was no answer, just static. Some of the crew chuckled. They are too frightened to speak. But then a signal appeared, a single voice, calm and human. This is Earth Command. Leave Sol system immediately. This is your only warning. The voice was not loud, not angry, not pleading. It was quiet, firm, and carried a weight the Zarek did not understand. On the bridge of the Dominion's pride, Veyran laughed. They dare warn us? Pathetic animals. The crew joined him in laughter. Perhaps they do not understand who we are. Veyran ordered the fleet forward. Approach Earth, lock weapons, prepare to show them what defiance costs. The humans had said only one warning. Nothing more came. Then, as the Zirak warships drew closer to Earth, their scanners picked up something strange. A single ship. It rose from behind the moon like a shadow, sliding into view with silent grace. It was not massive like Dominion ships, but its design was unlike anything they had seen. Black hull, sharp edges, strange patterns across its surface that shimmered faintly as though alive. The humans transmitted again. Final warning. Leave now. Veyran sneered. One ship? They send one ship against 30 of ours? Destroy it. The Dominion fleet opened fire. Green beams of plasma, torpedoes glowing with antimatter, and railgun slugs streaked across the void, all converging on the lone human vessel, but the ship did not move. It did not dodge. Instead, its hull rippled with light. The Dominion's weapons struck and vanished. Plasma beams dissolved into sparks. Torpedoes shattered into dust. Railgun slugs broke, apart as if hitting invisible walls. What? Veyran's voice cracked. Shields cannot do that. No defense can erase plasma. Before his officers could answer, the human ship fired. No beams, no missiles. Just a flash of white light, silent and blinding. One Zirak cruiser exploded instantly, cut in half as though sliced by a god's blade. Another followed. Then another. In less than 3 seconds, 5 Dominion warships were gone. Not damaged, not crippled, gone. The bridge of the Dominion's pride fell silent. Officers stared at their screens in horror. Impossible, one whispered. No weapon is that precise, no strike is that powerful. But it was real. The human ship moved again, slow and calm, like a predator circling prey. Panic began to spread through the fleet. Captain, what are your orders? An officer shouted. Veyran's pride battled with fear. His entire life he had been taught the Armada was unstoppable, yet in moments, 5 ships had died. We outnumber them, he roared. All ships, surround and fire. Overload weapons if you must, the fleet obeyed. 25 warships closed in, unleashing a storm of fire. The void burned with energy, a hurricane of destruction crashing down on the single human vessel. But when the light cleared, the ship was still there, untouched, and then it struck back. White lances of energy shot outward, each one so fast that the eye could barely follow. Every shot found a target. Every shot killed. A destroyer split into fragments. A battleship's core imploded. Cruisers shattered like glass. 10 more ships gone in the blink of an eye. Screams filled the Zirak comms. Officers shouted warnings, begged for orders, cursed their enemies. But the human ship was merciless. It did not fire wildly. It did not waste energy. Every shot was perfect. Every shot ended a life. On the bridge of the Dominion's pride, Veyran felt fear for the first time in his career. His hands shook on the command chair. His crew stared at him with wide eyes, waiting for an answer. Retreat, he finally whispered. Signal retreat. The order spread through what was left of the fleet. Engines flared as surviving ships turned and fled, but the human ship did not chase. It simply stopped, floating in silence, its black hull glowing faintly. Then came the transmission. You were warned. The channel went dead. Of 30 Dominion warships, only 12 escaped. They limped away, hulls broken, crews terrified, leaving, behind wreckage drifting in the cold void. The human ship returned to its place near Earth, silent as ever. It did not celebrate, did not taunt. It simply watched. Far away, in the Dominion Council chambers, Admiral Corrin listened to the report. Scout fleet, destroyed by a single human vessel, survivors babbling about impossible weapons, defenses that erased plasma, and a voice that gave only one warning. Corin's 4 eyes narrowed. Lies, one admiral hissed. It cannot be true. They must have faced hidden defenses, mines, ambush, fleets. Or perhaps, another said, voice trembling, the rumors are true. Perhaps the humans have power we do not understand. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some laughed, some shouted for vengeance, others urged caution. But Corin remained silent. He stared at the star map, his gaze fixed on the tiny blue world named Earth. If the reports were true, then something had just changed. Something that could shatter 6 centuries of Dominion pride. At last, he spoke. Prepare a battle group. 10,000 ships. We will see if these humans are truly gods, or if they bleed like the rest. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Holt watched the recordings of the battle. She stood in the command chamber of the ESS Nemesis, the ship that had faced the Dominion fleet. Her officers looked at her with pride, but she shook her head. This was only the beginning, she said quietly. They will not stop. They will return with more. We must be ready. She turned toward Earth, her homeworld shining blue and green beyond the viewport. For 6 centuries they believed no one could stand against them, she whispered. Now they know. Humanity will not bow. And so the galaxy's first lesson began. The Dominion, masters of war for generations, had been given a taste of something they had never known before. Fear. Admiral Corin's eyes burned with fury. For the first time in his long life he had felt shame. The Xerac scout fleet, 30 ships, a mere fraction of the armada, had been destroyed in seconds by a single human ship. The survivors had fled, leaving wreckage behind, their pride shattered. For centuries, Corin had believed nothing could challenge the Dominion. And now, the humans were proving him wrong. He turned to his council. Prepare the battle group, he ordered. 10,000 ships, every class, every weapon. This time we will crush them. Earth will kneel. The chamber went silent. 10,000 ships, a force so massive it could consume a solar system. But Corin knew something else. This time he would not allow arrogance to blind him. He had studied the humans' attack. He had seen the precision. He had counted their speed and their strange energy patterns. They are fast, Corin admitted, but they cannot stop 10,000 warships. Across the stars, the fleet assembled. Warships of every design, every size, floated in perfect formation. Battleships with miles-long hulls, cruisers bristling with turrets, destroyers carrying antimatter torpedoes capable of leveling continents, shuttles, scouts, bombers, thousands of auxiliary craft, all coordinated under Corin's command. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. For decades, species whispered of the Dominion's might. Now the whispers would turn to screams. Back on Earth, Admiral Sarah Holt studied the incoming fleet from the command chamber of the ESS Nemesis, Earth's most advanced warship. The Nemesis was massive, far larger than any human ship had ever been. Its black hull reflected the blue light of Earth, and its engines glowed like molten silver. Holt had overseen its design for years. Every weapon, every shield, every AI-guided system had been built to protect humanity from threats far beyond the Dominion. 10,000 ships, one officer said, awe and fear mixed in his voice. Can we stop them? Holt's eyes were calm. We don't need to stop them all. We need to show them what humanity can do. She turned toward the holographic display of the Dominion fleet. Thousands of ships, stretching across the void, engines burning like a swarm of stars. But Holt was not afraid. Target their command ships first, she ordered. Precision strikes, do not waste energy on small targets. Let them feel our strength. The Dominion fleet entered Sol system in perfect formation, their engines blazing. The signal of their arrival spread across the galaxy. Earth shall fall. On the bridge of the Dominion Pride, Corin's 4 eyes swept over the system. Earth was a small blue dot, but he felt the weight of the human threat. Reports from the scouts had been terrifying, but he had a plan. Divide into 3 wings, he commanded. Flank the planet. Overwhelm their defenses. and strike at the heart, the human fleet. Every ship responded instantly. Formation shifted. Tens of thousands of cannons and turrets came online, plasma beams arcing and missiles arming. This time, Corin believed there would be no mistake. The humans did not wait. The ESS Nemesis slipped from Earth's orbit, silent and deadly. It moved faster than anyone expected, engines blazing with light that seemed impossible. It was not alone. Accompanying drones swirled around it, small craft carrying weapons that could disable a battleship in seconds. Holt's voice echoed in the command chamber. "This is humanity's stand. Let them see what we have built." The Nemesis's AI calculated trajectories with impossible speed, targeting key points in the Dominion formation. The first salvo struck. A Dominion battleship, one of the largest in the fleet, exploded before its turrets could fire. A second vanished, into a cloud of white energy, leaving the surrounding ships stunned. Then the Nemesis fired again, faster, more precise, its weapons bypassing shields and tearing through hulls as if they were paper. Corin's bridge erupted in alarms. "Impossible," shouted a junior officer. "They cannot do this. 10,000 ships. This one ship cannot destroy them all." But it was happening. One by one, Dominion ships fell. Cruisers, destroyers, even heavily armored battleships were reduced to wreckage before they could respond. The fleet wavered. Confusion spread. Holt watched calmly. "Prepare the quantum destabilizers," she ordered. "Focus on the command wing." The Nemesis unleashed beams of energy that bent space itself. Where they struck, Dominion ships collapsed from the inside out. Entire formations vanished. The human dreadnought moved like a predator, striking only where necessary, never wasting energy. The Dominion fleet tried to regroup. Missiles flew, plasma arcs burned, but the Nemesis dodged every strike effortlessly. Its shields absorbed everything, regenerating faster than any weapon could penetrate. In the chaos, Corin realized the truth. Humanity was not relying on numbers. They had built weapons far beyond his understanding. They were not like other species. Every strike was calculated, perfect, unstoppable. "Concentrate fire," he shouted. "Destroy it at all costs." But the Nemesis was always one step ahead. Using advanced AI predictions, it intercepted attacks, firing countermeasures before Dominion weapons even left the barrels. When it struck, the effect was devastating. Entire groups of ships disappeared in blinding flashes. The fleet, 6 centuries in the making, was falling apart. Corin felt something he had never felt: fear. For centuries he had faced rebellion, treachery, war. But never had he seen a force like this. Never had he seen a species capable of precision, strategy, and raw power combined in one vessel. And then he understood. He was not facing a fleet. He was facing a weapon designed to end fleets. The battle continued for hours, though to observers it seemed like minutes. Dominion ships tried every tactic. They split into wings, they feigned retreats, they even attempted kamikaze strikes. None succeeded. Each time the Nemesis responded perfectly. The dreadnought moved, struck, and vanished before the Dominion could predict its path. Its AI calculated trajectories with unmatched speed. Its weapons destroyed ships faster than the Dominion could rebuild formations. Finally, Corin ordered, "Retreat." It was the first time in his life he had given such an order. "Fall back," he shouted, "save what remains. Regroup at the edge of the system." The fleet obeyed, but the retreat was chaotic. Hundreds of ships were lost in the escape. The Dominion had underestimated humans, and now the cost was clear. 10,000 ships, centuries of pride, and countless lives, all shattered in moments by a single human dreadnought. Back on Earth, Holt watched the battle unfold. The Nemesis returned to orbit unharmed. Its weapons were ready, its systems intact. The human crew cheered silently, proud but composed. They had done what no one believed possible, stood against an empire, and survived. Holt turned to her officers. "This is only the beginning. They will come back. They will bring more. But now the galaxy knows one thing: Humans are not to be underestimated. The cameras of alien observers recorded every detail. Across the stars, other species watched the footage of the battle and gasped. The Dominion had sent 10,000 ships, and all had failed to crush one human dreadnought. For the first time, the universe began to whisper the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was something else entirely. Corinne stood silently on the bridge of the Pride, staring at the remaining Dominion ships. His pride, his confidence, his belief in centuries of conquest, they were gone. They fight differently, he whispered to no one. They do not fear. They do not panic. And yet, they kill with precision. Prepare the full armada. We will not fail again. But deep inside he knew the humans had changed the rules of war. And no matter how many ships he built, no matter how many weapons he amassed, the universe would never be the same again. The universe held its breath. After the humiliating defeat of the 10,000-ship battle group, Admiral Corin's shame had turned to rage. The Zirac Dominion would not fail again. Not at Earth, not against humanity. The Grand Armada assembled. Millions of warships, every type and class in existence, stretched across the void like a storm ready to consume the solar system. Battleships longer than moons, cruisers bristling with weapons, destroyers carrying torpedoes that could shatter continents, and squadrons of fighters, all moving in perfect synchronization. The galaxy had never seen such power. This is the end, Corin said, voice cold and sharp. Earth will kneel or be destroyed. There is no mercy. There is no escape. The command channels were filled with Dominion officers preparing for the final assault. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled, through fear. Now they believed fear would triumph again. Across the Sol system, Earth's defense forces moved silently. Reports confirmed the size of the incoming fleet. The numbers were staggering. Millions of warships, engines burning like stars. Many of the human officers whispered under their breath, wondering if even the ESS Nemesis and its drones could survive such an assault. Admiral Sarah Holt, however, remained calm. She had not built Earth's defenses to face a single fleet. She had built them to defend the planet against the impossible. Project Horizon is ready, she said. Her voice echoed across the command chamber, steady and commanding. All personnel, take your positions. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Project Horizon had been humanity's secret for decades, a planetary defense system unlike any other in the known universe. Thousands of orbital platforms, each bristling with advanced weapons, formed a grid around Earth. But the true power of Project Horizon was invisible to enemy scanners, a network that could draw energy from the sun itself, focus it into beams, capable of slicing through stars, and coordinate attacks with absolute precision. This is not just defense, Holt said, turning to her officers. It is the future of war, and it will protect our home. The Dominion Armada arrived in orbit, engines flaring like 1,000 novas. Their weapons powered up, missiles streaked, beams fired, and gravity warheads prepared to tear Earth apart. The alien commanders were confident. 6 centuries of dominance had taught them that nothing could resist their might. Then the humans acted. The first wave of Project Horizon weapons activated silently. White lances of energy shot into the void, faster than the eye could follow. The first Dominion battleships disintegrated before their weapons even fired. Missile volleys collided with invisible shields and exploded harmlessly. Every move the Armada made was countered with perfect precision. Holt watched the displays. "Target the command wings," she ordered. "Hit them first. Let the rest feel what happens to those who lead the attack." White beams arced through, space-like threads of light slicing through cruisers, destroyers, and battleships. Entire formations collapsed. Corinne's finest commanders were vaporized before they could give orders. Panic spread through the fleet. Signals were lost, weapons misfired, and ships collided in chaos. "What is happening?" Corinne shouted. His voice was rage and disbelief mixed together. "Our fleet cannot. It cannot be destroyed like this." It was happening. Millions of warships, centuries of labor and pride, were disappearing in seconds. On the bridge of the ESS Nemesis, Holt smiled faintly. The dreadnought was coordinating with Project Horizon, using its AI to direct strikes with deadly efficiency. Human drones darted between Dominion ships, disabling turrets and engines before beams could hit them. Orbital platforms fired synchronized energy lances, tearing through shields like paper. The Armada tried to regroup, forming wedges and lines. They concentrated fire on the Nemesis, hoping to destroy the symbol of human resistance. Tens of thousands of weapons fired at the dreadnought simultaneously. It was futile. The Nemesis moved with impossible speed, dodging and countering. Its weapons struck at the heart of each formation, cutting ships in half before the rest could react. The dreadnought did not just fight, it commanded the battlefield, coordinating Project Horizon like a conductor leading a symphony of destruction. Corrin realized the truth. He was not facing a planet's defenses. He was facing a force unlike anything he had ever encountered. The humans had combined technology, strategy, and precision into something terrifying. "Concentrate on the Nemesis," he bellowed. "Destroy it at all costs." Thousands of ships focused fire, sending plasma, rail slugs, missiles, and gravitational warheads at the human ship. But it was already too late. Every weapon that approached the Nemesis was intercepted or destroyed. Every counterattack shattered Dominion formations further. One by one, the warships Corrin had spent centuries building fell. Entire wings disappeared into white light. Command ships vaporized. Battleships crumbled. Millions of lives ended before the Admiral could even issue new orders. From orbit, Earth remained untouched. Cities glimmered beneath the atmosphere. Satellites blinked in perfect formation. Project Horizon's energy web had absorbed and redirected, the energy of incoming attacks drawing from the sun itself to power its beams. The Dominion realized too late that nothing could reach the planet. Every attempt was blocked, destroyed, or redirected. Their greatest weapons, the pride of centuries, were useless. Corrin felt his chest tighten. Rage was not enough. Pride was shattered. He could not even conceive how a single species, a young species, could wield such power. "Prepare the retreat," he finally ordered. We cannot win." But the retreat was not peaceful. Project Horizon struck again, targeting engines and bridges, destroying the ships that tried to escape. Whole fleets disintegrated before they could leave orbit. The remaining survivors fled in panic, their pride and arrogance gone, leaving only silence in their wake. Across the galaxy, species that had once feared the Dominion watched in awe. Centuries of terror and conquest had been erased in moments by a single planet's defenses. Whispers began to spread. Humans are not to be trifled with. On Earth, Holt watched the final reports. Every Dominion ship was accounted for, destroyed, disabled, or in retreat. Her officers cheered quietly, proud but composed. The cost to humanity had been minimal. Not one city had been touched. Not one major ship had been lost. Holt turned to the crew of the Nemesis. "This was more than defense," she said. "This was a warning. The galaxy now knows the truth. Earth will not bow. Earth will not break. And humanity is not to be underestimated." Far from Earth, Admiral Corrin floated in the command chamber of his flagship. His fleet, the mightiest the galaxy had ever seen, was gone. His pride, his arrogance, and his centuries of preparation had ended in failure. He stared at the small blue planet in the distance. Humans had not only defended themselves, they had shattered the very idea of what was possible in war. They were different, he whispered. They fight like no one else. They do not fear. They do not flee. And yet, they destroy everything in their path. Corrin knew something else. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had proven that numbers, size, and centuries of power meant nothing when faced with the will, intelligence, and technology of humans. For the first time, fear entered the hearts of the Dominion, and for the first time, the galaxy understood. Humanity was not just a young species. Humanity was a force unlike any other. The stars around Sol system burned with the remnants of the Dominion Armada. Wreckage floated silently, a graveyard of arrogance and pride. Project Horizon's orbital platforms remained vigilant, ready to strike again if necessary. The Nemesis glided silently above the Earth, a symbol of human power and precision. Holt stood at the viewport, looking at the planet she had sworn to protect. She knew the Dominion would not return lightly, but she also knew humanity was ready. Galaxy would never forget this day. Earth had survived. Earth had triumphed. And Earth had shattered an empire. The Zerak Dominion had fallen. Not in a slow collapse, not over decades of war, but in a flash. Their fleets built over 6 centuries. Their pride, their countless weapons, all reduced to nothing by a species they had dismissed as weak. Admiral Corin floated silently on the bridge of his flagship. The remnants of the Armada, a few dozen crippled ships, clung to the edges of the Sol system. His 4 eyes, once glowing with confidence, now reflected disbelief and shame. He could not speak. Words would not capture the humiliation of watching the greatest fleet in the galaxy destroyed by a single planet's defenses. Back on Earth, Admiral Sarah Holt stood at the command chamber of the ESS Nemesis, looking at the data reports from Project Horizon. The destruction of the Dominion was complete. Not one city on Earth had been touched. Not a single major human ship had been lost. The planet had survived intact, its people safe, and the galaxy had seen the truth. Humanity could not be conquered. Holt turned to her officers. "The fight is over," she said calmly. "But this is not the end. The galaxy now knows our strength, and we must ensure it is used wisely." Her officers nodded. They understood. Humanity had not attacked for conquest. They had defended their home. They had warned the galaxy that Earth was not to be trifled with. Across the stars, the news spread like fire. The Dominion's empire, once unchallenged, was in chaos. Worlds that had once cowered in fear began to rise. Systems that had been enslaved or exploited declared independence. Rebel factions within the Dominion itself turned against their leaders, abandoning the shattered fleets and fleeing for survival. No one had expected this. The galaxy had believed the Dominion untouchable. Now they realized their assumptions were false. On a liberated colony world, alien leaders gathered to discuss the new balance of power. "They are humans," one ambassador said, still shaking. "They destroyed millions of our fleet ships in seconds. One planet, one species, and they defeated centuries of planning and preparation. How is this possible?" Another replied, voice trembling. "They are not like us. They think differently, they fight differently, and they do not stop." Whispers spread across councils, chambers, and distant systems. If humanity intervenes, no power can resist them. For the first time, species that had lived under fear began to look at Earth as a potential ally, rather than a threat. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Holt received a message from Admiral Corin himself. It was short. "You have shown strength beyond comprehension. We will not attack again. Perhaps we have underestimated your species. The galaxy is changed." Corin Holt read the message silently, then turned to her crew. "This is all we needed," she said. "No more fleets. No more attacks. They know we will defend ourselves, and that is enough for now." Her officers understood, but Holt also knew the truth. The galaxy would watch Earth closely from now on. Some would respect humanity, others would fear it, and some would try to challenge it. But humanity was ready. In the weeks following the Dominion's defeat, Earth began reaching out diplomatically. Ambassador ships traveled to liberated worlds, offering aid, trade, and advice. Humanity did not conquer. They did not enslave. They offered cooperation and protection for those who accepted it. The galaxy had learned something crucial. Humans were not just fighters. They were intelligent, strategic, and capable of leadership. And they had the power to enforce peace. If necessary, on a former Dominion capital, alien leaders gathered to discuss the future. The humans They did not invade us, one said. They could have, but they chose to protect their home instead. And yet, they are stronger than the Dominion ever was. Perhaps we should listen to them rather than fight them. Another nodded slowly. We have seen what happens when they act. We would be wise to remember it. The lesson spread quickly. Humanity's power was unmatched, but its restraint was also remarkable. Back on Earth, Holt walked along the observation deck of the Nemesis, looking at the blue planet below. Cities glittered in the sunlight, oceans reflected the sky, and life thrived. Humanity had survived the greatest challenge in its history. They had faced a galaxy-spanning empire and emerged victorious without losing themselves. She thought about the Dominion, about the millions of ships destroyed, and about the lessons the galaxy had learned. Humanity had shown that strength without arrogance, intelligence without cruelty, and courage without fear could change the course of history. In the distance, alien ships cautiously approached Earth. They came not to attack, but to observe, to learn, and in some cases, to seek alliance. Humanity had become a new center of power, not by conquering but by defending, by proving their abilities and by showing restraint. Holt smiled faintly. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, but that mistake would not be repeated. Admiral Corinne, meanwhile, returned to the ruins of the Dominion capital aboard his remaining flagship. His advisors whispered among themselves, fearful of his reaction. But Corinne said nothing. He only stared at the stars, at the small blue world that had destroyed an empire. Perhaps we have learned something, he muttered to himself. Perhaps the galaxy has changed forever, and perhaps humans are not just another species to conquer, they are different. For the first time, he felt respect mixed with fear, a combination he had never known in 6 centuries of war. The galaxy began to rebuild. Former Dominion worlds formed new alliances, trade resumed, colonies flourished, and throughout it all, humans remained a quiet, watchful presence. No fleets conquered, no wars declared, only silent strength, careful strategy, and the knowledge that Earth could end an empire in seconds if provoked again. Other species began to call Earth and its fleet by a single term, whispered in awe and fear. The shield of the galaxy. On Earth, Holt addressed the world for the first time since the battle. Broadcast reached every continent, every settlement, every colony in space. Humanity has faced a threat unlike any in history, she said. We have defended our home, and we have survived. But we do not seek war. We seek cooperation. We offer aid to those who need it, and protection to those who cannot defend themselves. The galaxy is vast and our strength is great. Let this be a promise. Earth will stand. Earth will endure. And humanity will act wisely but firmly whenever our home or the innocent are threatened. The world listened. The stars listened. And even those who had once feared humans knew one thing. Earth had changed the rules of the galaxy. In the years that followed, humans became leaders, not conquerors. They helped rebuild destroyed systems. They mediated conflicts. They shared technology selectively, teaching others how to defend themselves. And everywhere, the story of the Dominion's defeat spread. 6 centuries of terror, destroyed in seconds by a species that had been dismissed as weak. The galaxy had learned humility. The galaxy had learned respect. The galaxy had learned fear. But the humans themselves learned something too, that intelligence, courage, restraint, and preparation could accomplish what brute force never could. Now, the ESS Nemesis now docked in Earth orbit. Holt looked out at the stars. Ships from dozens of civilizations now traveled openly to Earth. They came not to conquer, but to communicate, to trade, to learn. Humanity had not sought empire. They had sought survival, and in doing so, they had become the new center of power, a species that other civilizations would not dare challenge. Holt whispered to herself, almost as a warning. The galaxy knows our strength, and they will remember it always. And so the galaxy changed. The Xerac Dominion was gone. humanity remained, and the universe would never forget the day that Earth ended an empire in seconds.